a couple of pointers. One is that if you want really good professional AV to be included in your Moodle site, I'd highly recommend the services of somebody in the back corner, Emma Bortolotto, and her colleagues. And I'll come back to mention of them later in this very session. So that's significant. The second one is that if you are looking for links to good resources, have a look at your last edition of Moodle Matters. My great colleagues Fiona Honeyman and Shane Evans have developed a site called Moodle Masters. There's a self-enrolment process. So far the enrolments have been fairly slow, but we did hit people with that notification pretty much at the very period when a lot of them are going off on leave. Shane, anything you wanted to say about the site?
No, I mean, it's a site that's developing over quite a few months, and it's got quite a lot of useful information I think you'll all find. If you just look through the Moodle Matters emails that you've been sent, you'll find an enrolment key which will enrol you in that course. It'll enrol you as an instructor, so you can actually see how the activities have been set up. So it gives you a real sort of background, and the groundwork's been done, so you can see how all the activities and resources have been uploaded. So strongly encourage everyone to enrol in Moodle Masters.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Shane. Okay, what we want to pass to now is something that began 2011, 2 years ago. And it started as a conversation with our then liaison librarian, Jennifer Millwood, about improving the information searching skills of distance education postgraduate students. The concern was, I think it's called the Googleisation of society. Google has become, if anything, too clever. And it has, to quite some extent, de-skilled our students. And so we tend to get fairly dumb references when they are made within academic work. And so with Jennifer, we discussed this idea of applying for a learning and teaching seed grant. We were given one of these for $2,000 last year. It's some of the best $2,000 I've ever had to spend. At that point, just at the point it really started to get interesting, Jennifer got another job. And so then we had to go back to the library in particular, and Jennifer and I organised this on a very informal basis, go back to the Academy Library and see about engaging the right people with the right skills, and Penelope will come back to this later, talking about what it took to get people up to speed in that area. What we had in mind was the running of a virtual tutorial. Now, why did we do it? We did it to establish a minimum level of information search skills for postgraduate DE students, and focusing particularly on the use of peer-reviewed literature. And we saw here the creative possibilities, the use of Blackboard's Collaborate, which is an online tutorial system, and I'll show you what it looks like in a moment. Moreover, we wanted to establish a template for asynchronous, that is to say non-synchronous online assistance resources for our off-campus students. But most of all, we wanted to learn. And if there's a plus about this trial, we learned an awful lot, and with some very interesting lessons. So what did we do? We developed an online implementation plan for the Academy Library participation. We invited students to join an online demonstration of database searching for their upcoming assignments there. And we used Collaborate, as I mentioned earlier, as the platform for the delivery, providing support, and we provided support and training for these. And so I'll come back to this in a while. The $2,000 went primarily towards the engagement of a technician who helped students get up to speed ahead of time, helped us as academics, and helped the library staff get up to speed in the technology use ahead of time. We selected 2 courses here, Human Resource Management and Marketing, for the pilot in this instance. I might hop out at this stage and just show you what it was that we did and what it looks like. What you're about to see, I'll spell out the elements of it. If you want to see really good use of this, I highly commend the work of Christina Spatel. And Grace, you referred earlier to the use of online whiteboards, for example. I know Christina does that incredibly well, and very, very good interactive tutorials there. But I'll just give you a flavour for it. It's not much sound and light. Just by way of illustration of how it works, in this panel here, we've got, it's showing who the students are online at the time that this was being run. Down the bottom here, you've got the scope little, it's both telling you who's joining and who's leaving the sessions, and there's keyboard exchange. Keep in mind this is only 8 minutes into an hour, and of course that chat became a fair bit more developed. But what everybody had in front of them was the website, and this is where this was Owen Litchfield delivering, and hopefully some sound will come through if I just click on here, and you'll hear Owen talking about what it takes to make an effective web search.
Well, as I said, as Denise said, welcome to tonight. So my name is Owen Litchfield and I'm an outreach officer within the Academy Library. And this session is basically to assist you in finding relevant information for your assignment. So we're trying to develop some basic skills that hopefully will assist you in finding that relevant information to your assignments by utilising the Library Gateway, its databases, and also some of the tools, other tools that we have available. So what we'll initially start with is actually our Academy Library homepage. Now, for those students who actually have studied with us previously, you may have found that our Academy Library homepage.
That'll probably do in terms of just a rough outline about what we were doing. Now, the beauty of this was not only did we get an online participation and some interaction, which makes the whole session very authentic, but we were able to save all of these sessions and have them viewable by students later. So, yeah, the sessions were co-delivered by the academic and the library staff. The sessions were scheduled outside of that 9 to 5 time span to increase participation, saved to Moodle sites for later review by the students, and this is by far where we found the greatest use of them. And finally, we evaluated the outcomes and the obstacles to those. So where did the money go? The technician support, pre-sessions, there was drop-in, so students could test their technology. For all that didn't work as perfectly as we would have hoped. And also, we had the use of Logitech web cameras. We bought those for it. Okay, so in terms of the lessons then that we learned, timing them, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time is about 5 p.m. Queensland time. God knows what time it is in Washington, where our defence attaches are, let alone, pardon? 4 a.m, thank you. Let alone Afghanistan, the guys who are on patrols there. So we picked up people, but we never picked up the live audience that we envisaged. But that's not to say that a live audience isn't important in terms of the participation. Academic availability, things arise with academics that, we make the commitment, we promote a session at a certain time. Life circumstances arrived that meant that sometimes the academics weren't available. I was there for every session. I don't think that was actually a major drawback, but it's important to have the academics there at the time. Scheduling. I think you have a problem with just about every academic in that they were all girly swats or boy swats, right, in their lives. And so when it came to the scheduling, the conversation went along this line. When are we going to run this session? And I'd say 4 or 5 days ahead of, no. They can't be working that late. We'll do it 2 weeks ahead of time. Now, I knew, Penelope would have known, I'm sure her colleagues knew, that is not how students behave. Students pay attention to these things 4 or 5 days out. So we ran the sessions well ahead of time. At least then they were saved. They were available for reviewing closer to time. But I think that did impact upon the availability of students to come online at the time. Look, maybe at this point I might pass on, I'm conscious of hogging a lot of airtime. Maybe at this time I'll pass to Penelope to talk through the other factors here. Penelope, do you want to come on in?
Okay. David's talking about the library staff availability within opening hours. In reality, our staff are available over extended opening hours through till 9 o'clock at night and at weekends. So we've got options of following up what's done after this. These sessions are shown with queries and through our chat with us. So those are some of the things we're doing. But the staff availability also was part of our planning. And we had to work out, we just got a new outreach team. We did not have the same subject specialists as we'd had when we'd had 2 or 3 who were devoted to one to each school. And we had to get them up to scratch with the subject knowledge as well as with the technology. We asked our colleagues in Kensington for help, and they agreed, and we actually sent out 2 of our staff who we said would participate in this pilot up to Kensington to shadow their business colleagues up there as to what they did and to get advice on databases, be shown some of the key databases that they were well aware of for the specific assignments. And they spent 4 days up there. Then a couple of weeks later, those staff from Kensington came down and spent more time, another 4 days down here, seeing this environment, working with our staff. And after that, they then finalised the development of the sessions they put together. And you'll see a bit further down the track that one of the things that was underestimated, partly because the key proponent or key participant had left and departed, so there was a lot of backgrounding to do, we underestimated the time and effort required for our staff to participate in the pilot, which was quite extensive, and that's why we're now looking at using that as a core resource that we can then build on and looking at it in various schools. So that's where that came from, and the time and skills we've already mentioned, as well as getting our staff up to date with the technology and spending time with being shown how to use that. So those were some of the lessons we learned, but we've probably set a good solid base for how to do it in the future.
Okay, so what else did we learn? Students were not likely to voice, even though we knew that a lot of them had microphones. They generally were quite happy to put the chat type function in. But I noticed with Christina, it might be a function of HAS students. They're pretty happy to get on the microphone, yeah. Okay, so what else did we learn? There was a student while we generated, I think, a maximum of something like 7 students to one of the online sessions. And both of these courses had about 60 students in them. Subsequently, half to 60% of the students in those classes reviewed the saved sessions. And every single person who came on live subsequently went on and reviewed the saved session. So it says a lot about, what a good resource the saved sessions are. Technically, I think we could do better. I think we would step outside, collaborate, and I think if we do more of this, we do it using other technology like Captivate, and we work with Emma and her colleagues and produce something that's much more polished. The session times obviously need to be properly publicised and notified. Many students were tripped up with the technology. I was reading the student evaluations of this just the other day. A lot of them were saying, look, the technology use, and all it requires is up-to-date Java, but if you decide to go online just at the last minute and you need Java installed, you're going to arrive 20 minutes to 30 minutes late. Not all the students registered for the sessions participated, and we did some digging to understand why, and the time required for preparation was underestimated. I'm conscious of keeping us well on time. So, outcomes. The sessions were delivered and recorded. The students are generally able to use Collaborate. The students overwhelmingly accessed the recordings. Yeah, every student who participated later accessed again the session via Moodle. 50-60% of those, of all the students, had a look. Surprisingly, I don't think there was any question about equity. We had Penelope and I presented this work last week at Kensington. One of the questions there was, is it equitable that to deliver these sessions and some people not being able to access them live at the time? We had no complaints along those lines at all. And we have some of the most legalistic students you can find, especially in the postgrad set of our student population. Both the academics involved reported that the quality of the assignments and the research for them improved, and that's the real proof of the pudding. So we saw an improvement. In the student evaluations, one of the common elements was, why weren't we given this in first year? Both of these were second year courses. The library staff here gained these remote presentation skills. Personally, and my background is library and information science, I'd sit and I'd watch Janine Harmon or Owen Litchfield deliver, and I'd look and think, gee, I never knew that. The world has changed in online searching. And the skills that are required, I think David Blaser said the other day, it's important that, if you're going to do a history masters at the moment, you learn about researching in history in 2013, because it sure hell isn't the same as it was in 2001. I felt that the interaction between the learning teaching group and the academy, library and academics also was a very important part of this learning and part of the outcome. What comes next? If you have a look at our scholarly graduate attributes, and this is the key point, I guess, of what I want to talk about here, the in the scholarly attributes says New South Wales graduates will be, and the latter two are information literate and digitally literate. I think we're doing something within these Collaborate sessions to address those. And as I said earlier, if Google has over-succeeded. Google used to be, when you looked at the construction of especially the advanced Google search, you saw Boolean logic. They've stripped all that out through very clever algorithms. They've stripped all that out. And the genius of what Janine and Owen showed was taking students back to that Boolean logic, this plus this plus this. My key point out of this, of what we've done, is that we say, when you look at those, we say that we develop them. And we certainly test them, but we do not deliberately teach them. At least in business, we do not deliberately teach these. And I'm looking here, particularly those that are there in red, and with reference to my academic learning and language colleagues. Capable of independent and collaborative inquiry, rigorous in the analysis, critique and reflection, able to apply their knowledge and skills to solving problems. Those are the kind of all-type concerns. And so what we've done here with information searching skills, I'd love to see us develop into the ALL areas too. I'm conscious of maybe 1 minute. Penelope.
Okay, a couple of things we did in the background that we're going to be expanding on. The staff actually were given some training in non-face-to-face communication, telephone, online and interactive online and email, so that they knew what the cues were that would improve the interaction, as well as what were the alarm bells that they should be aware of. We're going to be following that up this coming next half of the year. We're going to get that trainer back now that we've got the chat sessions that we're using, and we're going to see if she will do some live time with staff while they're on chat, so that instead of it just being theory, even though they found some of that practical, that then they can improve their communication better, because it is totally different from face-to-face communication. And I think sometimes we tend to forget that. I know in the life we occasionally forget the difference. The other thing that we did, there was a catalyst session which actually showed an experiment where they gave an information searching exercise to the generation coming of school leavers now, and the generation is probably about my age. It took us about twice as long, but it was only the difference of about a minute to find the information, because we evaluated it, and the results they got from the older generation were actually better, but the younger generation found it much faster, and their brains, part of the study was that your brain is actually an environmentally adaptive tool, and so the brains coming through are adapting to the instant information environment and are rewiring themselves to work with that. They are not developing in-depth skills, and I think that's one of the deficits that we are trying to address through this program. And that is that. So if anyone's interested, it's about a 10-minute session. We showed it to all our staff because we're not necessarily aware of it, and the staff found it very useful. They also enjoyed it, but it did show them the other side of the coin, and perhaps why some of our clients or students aren't thinking the way we are and don't understand what we're asking them to do with analysis and critique. So that is where I'd go.